We're just gonna jump right into this recipe. Y'all, this is so good. If you've never made homemade salsa, you're missing out. My husband and I have a great recipe that we like to can salsa occasionally and make, but this one's a little different. This is one you can just throw together very quickly. If you're following along, the first ingredient is going to be cilantro. Go ahead and grab that fresh cilantro, and you'll need a grater and just pull it through those holes and pull the leaves off. You will need a cup of fresh cilantro leaves. I was a little bit shy of a cup, but that's okay. And once you've got that done, that's the hardest part of it all, which is not hard at all if you use that cheese grater. And by the way, go back and look at my video on homemade pico de gallo, and you'll see how I did that. Now, I'm going to take 2 small jalapeños, and I'm going to take the guts out of them, the seeds, because those seeds, that's where the heat is. Now, if you like your salsa hot, just throw the whole jalapeno in there. What you and I are making is a mild salsa. Then once you've got your jalapenos cut, just put those aside. And by the way, you may want to grab a pair of gloves when you cut those jalapenos, because if you rub your eye, yes, it's not a pleasant feeling. I've done that before, so I always wear gloves, but you do want to keep your hands washed when you're cutting those jalapenos. And I didn't take the gloves off because I'm going to handle those jalapenos again. Now you will need 1 small onion, and I'm using a Vidalia onion. And just go ahead and cut that in big chunks. Now you're going to core 4 medium-sized tomatoes, and I think I actually had 4 medium-sized tomatoes and 1 very tiny one. This is a great way to utilize those homegrown tomatoes, and it's so good. And then you will need a food processor. I'm using my blender, and now we are just going to throw all of this in the blender. You'll want to start with your tougher kind of vegetables, so I'm starting with my onions and jalapenos. Because if you start with your tomatoes, the softer vegetables, you're gonna end up with pure liquid. And if you're using a blender like my old blender here, you may want to cut those up smaller than I did. I had a little bit of trouble trying to get my blender to get going because I cut these too chunky, but that's okay. Once you've got your jalapenos and onions to the consistency that you would like, then we are going to add the cilantro. 1 cup of cilantro. And it only takes a few seconds to blend that cilantro in with the onions and jalapenos. Let's add those yummy garden fresh tomatoes. 1 teaspoon of salt. And you just add the salt to taste, to suit your own taste. And this 1 teaspoon of salt was plenty for this recipe for my husband and I, because I'm going to add a little sea salt as well. And I added maybe about 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt. Let's go ahead and add 1 teaspoon of minced garlic. If you want to use garlic cloves, you can do that as well. You will need 2 garlic cloves if you want to do that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's 1 garlic clove equals 1/2 teaspoon of minced garlic. That's the ratio. Now let's turn that blender on and blend those tomatoes right into the other ingredients. And then last but not least, we are going to add the juice of 1 small lime. And just a tip for you, you can put that lime in the microwave for 1 minute, and when you go to squeeze that lime juice out, it will come out so much easier. If your salsa turns out pink, and mine did turn out a little bit pink, this does happen due to the blades going so fast and creating air bubbles in your salsa. But not to worry, it tastes just fine. And if you want it to be a pretty red color, then you can just boil it on the stove, especially if you're going to give it away to someone as a gift. You can even use this recipe to can salsa, and that would be great, but I didn't have enough tomatoes to do that, so I didn't worry about all of the sterilization process. I just poured it in a jar, and we will eat on this all week. It is so delicious, and that's how you make this really quick, easy salsa.